Ever feel like some books just echo through history?
Mm-hmm.
Well, get ready to dive into one of those timeless giants,
Oh,
Plato's Republic.
oh, I see.
Now, I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Ancient philosophy,
Yeah.
dense text,
Right.
potential for a headache.
Mm-hmm.
But trust me, this isn't just some dusty relic. It's a foundation of Western thought that still has us debating justice, power, and the ideal society centuries later.
It's amazing how relevant these ideas remain. Plato grapples with dilemmas we still face today.
And we're here to make it crystal clear. To really unpack these questions,
Yeah.
we need to understand the setup. We're dealing with a dialogue here, not a straightforward lecture. It's like we're eavesdropping on a conversation,
Exactly.
led by Socrates.
Picture yourself in ancient Athens, listening in as Socrates dismantles arguments with his signature sharp wit.
Say,
Keep in mind, though, that while Socrates is the mouthpiece, Plato is the mastermind behind the ideas.
so where does this philosophical roller coaster even begin?
At the heart of it all
Yeah.
lies a deceptively simple question: what is justice?
Ah, yes. The age-old question. And Plato doesn't make it easy for us. Throws a whole cast of characters into the mix,
Yeah.
each with their own take on what justice means.
One of the first voices we encounter, Thrasymachus, comes out swinging with a rather bold claim.
Yeah.
He argues that justice is nothing more than the advantage of the stronger, basically. Might makes right.
Okay. I bet some of you are already shaking your heads
Yeah.
thinking, no way, that can't be it. And guess what? Socrates thought so too. Instead of just telling us why Thrasymachus is wrong, Plato lets Socrates pick apart his argument piece by piece. This back and forth is key to understanding the depth of Plato's thinking.
Absolutely. Socrates points out that even rulers, with all their might, can make mistakes, misjudge situations. True rulers, according to Socrates, use their power to serve their people, not just themselves.
And here's where things get really interesting. This idea of serving the people leads Plato to his concept of the ideal ruler, the philosopher king. Now, before you picture a bunch of toga-clad philosophers running around trying to collect taxes, let's dig into what Plato actually meant. I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but the idea of philosopher kings ruling the world
Mm-hmm.
is definitely not what they taught me in history class.
It's certainly a bold concept.
Yeah.
Plato believed that those who dedicate their lives to pursuing truth and wisdom,
Okay,
your true philosophers,
right.
would be the least likely to be corrupted by power.
So they wouldn't be driven by, like, the usual suspects,
Right.
greed or personal gain.
Precisely.
Nope.
They'd be driven by a higher purpose,
Right.
a deeper understanding of justice and the common good.
That makes sense in theory.
Yeah.
But how do you even begin to find these philosopher kings?
Right.
And maybe even more importantly,
Yeah.
how do you ensure they actually stay wise and just once they're in charge?
This brings us to another crucial theme in the Republic:
Okay.
education.
Okay.
Plato had strong opinions about how young minds should be molded.
All right.
And you might be surprised by his views on storytelling.
Oh, this is where Plato's reputation as a bit of a control freak comes into play, right?
Well, let's just say he was wary of giving young people free rein in the library.
Yeah.
He was particularly concerned about the influence of art,
Okay.
especially poetry and drama.
Really?
Yeah.
Even those epic tales from Homer with all their heroes and monsters?
Even Homer.
Wow.
In fact, he specifically called out the Iliad and Odyssey,
Okay.
worried that their depictions of flawed gods and vengeful heroes could corrupt young minds.
Yeah.
He believed stories had the power to shape behavior.
So we're talking censorship,
Yeah.
banning books because they don't fit a certain moral code.
In a nutshell, yes.
Wow.
Plato argued that only stories promoting virtue and morality should be shared with young people. He believed that exposure to negative examples in literature could lead to negative behavior in real life.
It's fascinating how this debate about the influence of art and media continues to rage on even today,
It's true.
centuries later.
Yeah, it speaks to a timeless anxiety about what shapes our values,
Right.
our understanding of right and wrong.
Of course.
Are we just products of the stories we consume? It's a question that each generation grapples with in its own way.
Okay, so let's say we've somehow found our philosopher kings
Right.
and raised them on a steady diet of only the most morally upright tales.
Okay.
What does Plato's ideal society actually look like?
Get ready for this,
Yeah.
because Plato's vision includes some pretty radical ideas.
Okay.
For example, he believed that rulers should own no private property.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like, not even a toothbrush or a good reading scroll.
You see, he believed that private ownership inevitably leads to greed and corruption.
Right.
He envisioned rulers who were utterly devoted to the common good,
Right.
their every action motivated by a desire to serve the people,
Yeah.
not to amass personal wealth.
I could see how that might cut down on political scandals,
Right.
but I imagine it would be a tough sell in today's world.
Yeah, I think so.
What else did he have up his philosophical sleeve?
Another radical notion
Okay.
was his belief that women were equally capable of being guardians.
Okay.
Remember, that's his term for the ruling class.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was advocating for women in positions of power.
He was.
That was pretty forward-thinking, especially for his time.
It certainly was. He argued that women, just like men, possess the capacity for reason and leadership,
Okay.
and should therefore have the opportunity to demonstrate their abilities.
Right.
Of course, these ideas were just as controversial then as they would be in many societies today.
No doubt about that.
Right.
So we've got rulers with no possessions, women in charge.
Mm-hmm.
What other unconventional ideas did Plato cook up for this utopian society?
Well, how about this?
Okay.
He proposed something called the noble lie.
A noble lie.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm officially intrigued.
Okay.
What kind of myth are we talking about?
Plato imagined a story claiming that people were formed from different metals,
Okay.
gold, silver, bronze,
Okay.
and that their metal determined their place in society.
So you're born with a certain metal, and that dictates whether you're destined to be a ruler, a warrior, a worker.
Yes.
It's like a social hierarchy baked into your very being.
Exactly.
Wow.
And while it might sound a little out there,
Yeah.
it reflects Plato's understanding of the power of stories.
Oh, okay.
He recognized how narratives, even fictional ones, could shape beliefs and influence behavior on a societal level.
It really makes you think about the stories we tell ourselves today.
Mm-hmm.
The narratives we use to explain inequality or justify power structures.
Right.
It's like Plato is shining a light on the stories we often take for granted, asking us to question their origins and their consequences. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have...
We've explored Plato's radical ideas about justice, art, and the ideal state. But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to explore,
Okay.
arguably his most famous: the allegory of the caves.
It's a powerful image that gets right to the heart of Plato's philosophy.
Okay.
Imagine this. A group of prisoners chained inside a cave their entire lives.
Okay.
They face a blank wall, unable to turn their heads.
Right.
Behind them, a fire burns.
Okay.
And between the fire and the prisoners, there's a walkway where people carry objects,
Ooh.
statues, tools,
Right.
you name it.
So the prisoners never see the actual objects.
Right.
Only the shadows they cast on the cave wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because these shadows are all they've ever known,
Right.
they mistake them for reality.
Wow.
They give them names,
Yeah.
tell stories about them, even base their entire understanding of the world on these flickering images.
It's like watching a movie and forgetting there's a whole world outside the screen.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now imagine one prisoner breaks free.
Okay.
He's dragged out of the cave into the blinding sunlight.
Okay.
At first, he's overwhelmed, confused,
Right.
but gradually his eyes adjust.
Right.
He sees the world as it truly is. The sun, the sky,
Wow.
the real objects that cast those pale shadows.
He must be completely awestruck, realizing the limitations of his previous reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This freed prisoner represents those who seek true knowledge,
Okay.
who venture beyond the familiar and comfortable.
Right.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
He goes back to tell the others what he's seen.
And they don't believe him, do they?
They don't.
Yeah.
They mock him, dismiss him as a madman. They'd rather cling to the familiar shadows than confront a truth that might shatter their worldview.
It's a powerful reminder of how difficult it can be to share new ideas, to challenge ingrained beliefs.
Very true.
It makes you think about all the caves we construct for ourselves.
Yes.
The biases, the assumptions,
Right.
the unquestioned narratives that shape our understanding of the world.
And that's the enduring power of the allegory of the cave.
Right.
It's not just a story about prisoners and shadows.
Right.
It's a challenge to examine our own perceptions,
Right.
to question what we hold to be true.
So if we're all susceptible to living in these metaphorical caves,
We are.
how do we break free? What's our path to enlightenment?
For Plato, it all came back to education.
Okay.
Training our minds to think critically, to
Yeah.
question, to seek knowledge beyond the shadows. Right. He believed that through philosophy,
Okay.
through rigorous inquiry and dialogue,
Right.
we could inch closer to truth.
It's a journey of constant learning,
It is.
of questioning, of refining our understanding of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Plato may not have all the answers,
That's true.
but he certainly knew how to ask the right questions.
He did.
So there you have it, a glimpse into the mind of Plato.
Mm-hmm.
We've journeyed through his ideas about justice, art, and the ideal state.
We have.
We've confronted uncomfortable truths
Right.
and pondered the shadows on the walls of our own caves.
Indeed.
If you're ready for more, we encourage you to seek out Plato's Republic for yourself.
Yes,
It's a challenging but ultimately rewarding read.
absolutely.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring,
Mm-hmm.
and never stop seeking the light beyond the cave.